My dad dumped me and divorced my mom. But years later, he gets a photo of me and begs I talk to him. I'm a 32-year-old guy, and I've got a story that's been part of my life for pretty much forever, and it's quite a roller coaster. So, buckle up. Here it goes. My whole drama started even before I was born. My mom discovered that my biological dad was cheating on her, which obviously put their marriage on really rocky ground. They started the divorce process, but then life threw a curveball. My mom found out she was pregnant with me. When she broke the news to my bio dad, he outright denied the possibility that I was his kid. He claimed he was infertile and accused my mom of cheating, demanding a paternity test. My mom was already emotionally shattered from all the cheating drama and his nasty accusations. Over the years, I've pieced together enough hints to suspect he was probably abusive too, though my mom has never explicitly confirmed this. Instead of dragging out a messy situation with paternity tests and more fights, my mom asked him to just give up his parental rights, especially since he was so adamant that I wasn't his kid. After that, she moved in with my grandparents, and that's where I was raised. Fast forward to when I was 14, I was hit with a wave of curiosity about this man. I pushed my mom to tell me the whole story, and after hearing it, my teenage brain got all these ideas about reuniting. I thought maybe my mom was just being petty, and if my bio dad knew for sure I was his son, he'd want to be a part of my life. I pressured her into contacting him, which she reluctantly did, only for him to send back this really hurtful letter full of insults and accusations. He called my mom all sorts of terrible names and accused her of just trying to get his money. That day was a turning point for me. I realized this guy was no father, and I decided I didn't need him at all. Now, let's skip to about 8 months ago. Apparently, my biological dad had some sort of near-death experience that changed his perspective. He tried to reach out to my mom to apologize for his past actions, but she wanted nothing to do with him. Somehow, he got a picture of me and noticed how much we look alike. This spurred him to contact me, claiming he was wrong back then and wanted a chance to get to know the only kid he had. At first, I ignored his attempts, but then he started throwing offers at me, paying off my student loans, buying me a house, taking me on expensive trips. I consistently refused. My fiancé, who's 29, knew about all of this and initially supported my decision to keep him out of our lives. But as he persisted and our financial burdens grew due to the global economic downturn, she began to see his offers as a potential solution. She urged me to reconsider and let him help us out financially, especially since we were drowning in debt and had even delayed our wedding to save money. Despite the temptation, something inside me just couldn't accept his money. It felt like accepting his help would somehow validate all the years he denied and ignored me. So I set up a meeting with him, looked him straight in the eyes, and told him I would never take a dime from him. I made it clear that if he continued to try to contact me, I would involve the police and get a restraining order. When I told my fiancée about the meeting, she was livid. She argued that by refusing his money without discussing it with her first, I was making unilateral decisions about our finances, which she saw as controlling and selfish. She felt that I should have considered our joint financial struggles and at least talked it over with her before shutting him out financially. After that argument, she packed up her things and left, and now she's not answering my calls or texts. So here I am, feeling torn and confused. On one hand, I stand by my decision to reject his offers because of the principles involved. On the other hand, I'm grappling with the fallout of that decision, which has now jeopardized my relationship with the woman I love. I'm stuck wondering if I made the right choice, and honestly, any advice or thoughts from you all would be incredibly helpful right now. Am I the idiot? Now for the top comments before the update. Not the idiot. This isn't a big financial decision. This is you squaring away family affairs, making it unclear about a relationship with a man you do not want. Unfortunately, your fiancé seems more interested in milking the situation of money rather than caring about how you feel. Good riddance to her, I'd say. Exactly. And you've just learned a valuable lesson. Your fiancé is manipulating you for financial gain without regard for your feelings. She just showed you her true colors. The more I think about it, the more I'm appalled by her behavior. She left in an attempt to manipulate you and guilt undertaking money from a possibly abusive person. She has no problem exposing you to a toxic relationship. Does it mean she'll get money out of it? Sounds like you're better off without her. She's only interested in money. Lucky break, dude. She just showed you who she is. If she was only interested in money, she wouldn't have been with him while he was involuntarily poor to the point of putting off their wedding. There's a difference between struggling and trying the best you can, and poverty tourist slumming it, which is a very difficult way of putting his situation, and assumes that the idiot dad is on the level, but makes the point I'm going to vote no idiots here. I think you need to keep in mind, though, Your fiancé is being practical. While you're being emotional, you feel no connection to this man. While I understand pride and dignity, taking his money when he hasn't contributed to your upbringing at all and owes you some money would put you and your fiancé in a much better situation and wouldn't hurt any more or any less than what you're doing now. It's not the most honorable thing to do. It's not the be the bigger person thing to do. But practically speaking, it would make your life much easier and compensate somewhat for the disadvantages of growing up without a father. Update 1. It all started yesterday when my best buddy called me up. He sounded super weird, like he was wrestling with whether to tell me something big. After a bit of back and forth, he finally let it slip. He'd seen my fiancé meeting secretly with my biological dad. Yeah, the same dad who I've been trying to keep at arm's length. They were at this little out-of-the-way cafe, trying to be low-key, but my buddy recognized them right away. Now get this. During their sneaky coffee meeting, my dad handed my fiancé a big fat envelope stuffed with cash. My friend was close enough to catch snippets of their chat. It sounded like my dad was doling out cash to help out because he thinks families should support each other. Can you believe that? I was totally blindsided. I mean, she knew how much I didn't want his money or anything to do with him, and yet there she was, taking it right under my nose. The sense of betrayal hit me like a truck. It's not just about the money, it's that she went behind my back after everything we've been through together. And to make things even messier, she's been dodging me, not answering any of my calls or texts to explain her side of things. Now I'm stuck in this giant mess, feeling more betrayed than ever. I've got a dad who's trying to sneak his way into my life by throwing money around, and a fiancé who might be siding with him over me. It feels like they teamed up while I was left in the dark. So what's my move here? I'm wrestling with a few options. Do I pull them both together and confront them head on? Do I try to fix things with her, hoping there's a good reason behind all this secrecy? Or is it time to just move on and save myself from more heartache? Honestly, I'm stumped. This whole situation has shaken up what I thought I knew about trust and loyalty. If anyone out there has any wise words or advice, I'm all ears because navigating this drama is proving to be way trickier than I ever imagined. Update 2. All right, so after a couple of days filled with lots of thinking and not much sleeping, I decided it was time to clear the air with my fiancé. I mean, we couldn't just keep avoiding the giant elephant in the room, right? So I sent her a text, asking her to come over because we needed to sort things out once and for all. She agreed, and that evening, she walked into the apartment, and man, you could cut the tension with a knife. I didn't waste any time. As soon as she sat down, I jumped right in. "So I know you met with my dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady but feeling like my heart was pounding in my ears. "My friend saw you guys. Why didn't you tell me about it?" She let out this really long sigh like she was tired before the conversation even started. "I knew you'd react this way," she said, looking down at her hands. "I knew you'd think I betrayed you. But listen, I did it because we need help. We're so deep in debt and your dad was offering a way out. I felt stuck." I could feel my frustration bubbling up. "But why go behind my back? Why not just talk to me about it?" I asked, feeling a bit betrayed and a lot confused. She threw her hands up a bit defensively. "Because I knew you'd just say no. Your pride and your issues with him would get in the way of us getting out of this financial mess. He was offering help, real, actual help, and I felt like I had to take it." "Help? Or is he just trying to buy his way into our lives?" I countered, feeling like the whole situation was slipping out of my control. "You know how he is. He's manipulative. How can you even think of trusting him?" She paused, looking really unsure for a moment. "I don't trust him, not really," she admitted slowly. "But I trust us. I trust that we're strong enough to use his help without letting him control us." I shook my head, feeling more upset by the second. "It's not just about the money, though. It's about trust, our trust. And now I don't know if I can trust you." Her face fell and she looked really hurt. "That's not fair," she said, her voice cracking. "I'm doing everything I can to keep us afloat. I'm making hard choices because I care about our future. Doesn't that count for something?" From there, things got really heated. We both started bringing up old problems, things that had been bothering us for a while but we'd never really talked about. She said she felt like she was dealing with our money issues all on her own, and that sometimes it felt like I wasn't even in it with her. I told her how betrayed I felt, how it seemed like she was choosing money over our relationship. We talked and argued for what felt like hours. By the end, we were both just sitting there, totally drained. There was this heavy silence, and then she asked in a really small voice, "What do we do now?" I honestly didn't know. Everything felt so messed up, so complicated. Maybe we need some space, I said finally, the words tasting bitter as they came out. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks, and without saying much more, she started to pack some of her things. I watched her, feeling like my heart was breaking. Was this really happening? Were we actually falling apart over this? She left, and I was alone in the apartment, surrounded by all these memories of us. Now I'm left wondering if that's it for us. If we're really done, or if there's some way we can get past this. It's all so overwhelming, and I'm not sure where to go from here. I guess I just need some time to think about everything and try to figure out what comes next. Update 3. After what felt like forever, but was probably just a few long, quiet days, my phone finally buzzed with a message that kind of changed the direction of everything. It was my fiancée. She texted that she really missed talking and asked if we could meet up at our old favorite spot, the little cafe where we first figured out we were kind of perfect for each other. Despite the mess between us, I felt this spark of hope and agreed immediately. The cafe was its usual cozy self, filled with the smell of fresh coffee and pastries. She was there before me, looking nervous but hopeful. We ordered our usual coffee and pastries, the ones we used to share on lazy Saturdays. Then, we found a quiet corner to dive into everything that had happened. She started the conversation, which surprised me a bit. "I've missed you," she said, looking straight into my eyes. "And I've had a lot of time to think about how everything exploded. I'm really sorry for going behind your back with your dad. I should have talked to you first. That was wrong, and I get why you felt betrayed." Hearing her say that, my own walls started to come down a bit. "I've missed you too," I admitted, feeling a mix of relief and lingering frustration. "But it's not just about the money or meeting him. It's about us, how we're supposed to handle things together. We're a team, right?" She agreed immediately, her eyes welling up a bit. "You're right. I let my worry about our debts make me do something stupid. I promise if we move past this, I'll never make decisions like that without you again." We talked a lot more after that. We opened up about our fears of the future, our hopes, and how stressed we had been feeling about money. It felt like we were slowly finding our way back to each other. Just then, in the middle of our deep talk, my phone rang. It was my mom. I hesitated, but decided to pick up. Mom was straight to the point. "Don't let money break you two apart," she said in her no-nonsense way. "You both love each other, anyone can see it. Money comes and goes, but love? Don't throw that away because of this mess." That hit me hard, right in the feels. My mom has always been about seeing the big picture, and she nailed it again this time. I hung up and shared what Mom said with my fiancée. She laughed a little, probably more from relief than anything. "Your mom always knows just what to say, huh?" "Yeah," I smiled back at her, feeling a bit lighter. She's got a knack for cutting through the mess. We decided it was time to head back to our apartment, a place that had seen better days with us. Walking in, everything looked the same but felt different, like we were stepping back into our life together, but with new eyes. Sitting down together on our couch, still holding hands, felt right. "We've got a lot to work through," I said. "Money issues, trust, handling tough times. But I think we can do it, if we're honest and open, no matter how hard it gets." She nodded, squeezing my hand. "I agree. Let's start fresh. Full honesty, always. And let's set some ground rules for future money stuff. Especially with family," she added, trying to make us both smile. I chuckled, grateful for the lighter moment. "Ground rules sound good. And maybe we could take a budgeting class or something? Tackle this as a team?" "Deal," she smiled, and it felt like we were making a new kind of promise to each other. So we're trying again. We know it's not going to be simple or easy, but something about facing it all together makes it feel possible, even hopeful. We have a bunch of stuff to figure out, but maybe, just maybe, we can turn all these challenges into something that makes us stronger than we were before. Thanks to everyone who's been sending good thoughts and advice our way. Here's to facing the mess and finding the magic that comes after you sort it all out. Update 4. I thought things were starting to settle, maybe even get a bit normal again after all the recent drama with my fiancé and my bio dad. But man, was I wrong. It was a typical Thursday, just like any other. I was coming home from work thinking maybe tonight would be a chill night. You know, just kick back, throw on a movie, and relax with my fiancé. But the universe had other plans, it seems. The moment I opened the door to our apartment, my heart pretty much stopped. There, sitting right on our couch like he owned the place, was my bio dad. The last person I ever wanted to see chilling in my living room. The shock of seeing him there just froze me for a second, Before I could snap out of it, my fiancé was up and talking fast, trying to smooth things over before they even got rough. I know this is a shock, but I thought it might be good if you guys could just talk, face to face. Maybe it would help, she said, looking really anxious. Help? I repeated, feeling my temperature rise. How could you think this would help anything? I didn't even give him a chance to settle in. I just said, I think you should leave. Now. My voice was calm, but it was like ice. I guess he could tell I wasn't messing around because he didn't argue. He just got up and left, but the storm was just starting. As soon as the door shut behind him, I turned to her, really letting my anger show. How could you do this? How could you think bringing him here was a good idea? She tried to explain, her voice all shaky. I thought if you could just see him, talk to him, maybe things could change. Maybe you'd see things differently. Behind my back? Again? I was shouting now, couldn't hold it in. We just talked about trust, about making decisions together. And you go and do this? She was crying now, really crying. I just wanted to help. I hate seeing you so upset about him. I thought if you two could just clear the air. Clear the air? You think a chat would just fix everything? My words were harsh and I wasn't pulling any punches. I told you I don't want his money, his help, nothing. I thought I made that clear. Through her tears, she kept saying, I was just trying to help. I love you. I was trying to do something good. But I was too far gone, too wrapped up in my own betrayal and anger. I can't do this anymore, I told her, feeling a mix of rage and something like despair. I can't keep wondering when the next secret meeting or decision is going to pop up. She sobbed harder, pleading with me, please don't do this. I really did it because I love you. I thought it might bring peace. Peace? Or control? Were you trying to manipulate how I feel about my own father? The words were out before I could stop them, each one like a blow. Finally, she just stood there, looking at me with tears streaming down her face. It was quiet for a moment, a terrible, heavy quiet. I think you should leave, I said, for good. She didn't say much after that, just gathered her things, her shoulders shaking with sobs, and left. The door clicked shut, and that sound? It was like the final note in a song, the end of something big. Now the apartment feels empty, too big, too quiet. I'm left wondering if I went too far, if maybe I should have handled it differently. But every time I think about it, I come back to feeling betrayed, blindsided in my own home. It's a mess, a real mess, and I'm just sitting here trying to figure out if I could have done something different, something better. So yeah, that's where I am, alone, confused, and not sure where to go from here. If anyone's been through something like this, or if you've got any advice, I could really use some right now. Because honestly, everything feels pretty broken and I'm not sure how to start fixing it. Update 5. Ever since that day I walked into my apartment and found my fiancé and my bio dad there, things have been spiraling. I made a tough call to end things with her. It wasn't an easy decision, especially with all the history and feelings involved, but after she betrayed my trust not just once, but twice, I couldn't see any other way to keep my sanity. Since then, she's tried pretty hard to reach out to me. My phone was blowing up with her calls and texts, and she even tried to connect through emails. But honestly, I just couldn't deal with it. I felt like if I started talking to her, I might just fall back into the old pattern, and I couldn't risk that. So, I did what felt like the only thing I could. I blocked her. Blocked her on my phone, social media, everywhere. It was like I had to erase her presence to stop myself from crumbling. But she didn't stop there. She went for what she thought might be her last resort. She went to talk to my mom. Yeah, she showed up at my mom's place, hoping maybe my mom could mend what was broken between us. When I heard about it, I couldn't believe it. Here's how the conversation went down when I called my mom. Mom, what's going on? Why is she there? I asked, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. Well, she's very upset, honey. She's asking for just one more chance to talk to you. She thinks you two can work it out, my mom explained, her voice calm and gentle. Mom, I just can't. How am I supposed to trust her again after everything? She went to him twice, even knowing how messed up that was for me, I said, my voice getting a bit louder than I intended. I understand, honey, but completely shutting her out. Are you sure that's what you want to do? Mom's voice was full of concern, making me second-guess myself for a moment. Yes, I'm sure. She made her choices, and now I've made mine. I need you to respect that, Mom. Please, I replied, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. My mom sighed, a deep, weary sigh. Okay, I'll respect your decision. I won't push you on this. But you know I'm here if you need to talk anytime. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it, I said, feeling a little relieved but still pretty shaken up. After hanging up, I felt this weird mix of emotions. Relief, because my mom wasn't going to push me to talk to her. Sadness, because it really felt over now. And loneliness because, let's be honest, breaking up sucks. The apartment seemed too quiet, too big, just too much without her. Now, I'm just trying to keep busy. Work's been a decent distraction, and hanging out with friends helps. But there are moments, usually at night, when everything feels a bit too still, and I start wondering about everything. Did I make the right call? Could things have been different? I've been doing a lot of thinking about trust, about relationships, and about how to move on from someone when you really didn't want to let go in the first place. It's not easy. Some days are better than others. Some days I feel okay, almost normal. Other days, it feels like I'm just going through the motions. If anyone out there has gone through something similar, or if you've got any advice on how to handle this kind of stuff, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. It's tough feeling like you're in this alone, and sometimes just knowing there are others out there who get what you're going through can make a big difference. So, that's where I'm at. Just taking it one day at a time, trying to figure out life post-breakup, and hoping that eventually, things will start to feel a bit more normal. Update 6. About a month after everything went down with my ex-fiancée, the whole messy breakup and all the drama that followed, I ended up meeting someone new. Totally unexpected, but it's been awesome. We met at a friend's backyard BBQ. She was laughing at some joke someone made, and I just had to know what was so funny. We started talking, and well, we haven't really stopped since. She's incredible, super understanding, laughs at my jokes, and she's got this way of making everything seem all right. After hanging out a few times, I realized I really liked her, like a lot. But I knew if this was going to go anywhere, I had to be upfront about all my baggage, especially the heavy stuff with my biological dad. So one evening, we were just chilling at this little diner we both like, and I decided it was time to tell her everything. I was super nervous, not gonna lie. I mean, it's not every day you tell someone about the deepest dramas of your life, right? I started with the basics. So there's something kinda heavy I need to tell you about me and my past. And from there, I just spilled it. Everything about how my dad denied being my dad, how he treated my mom, and the whole mess with my ex trying to sneak him back into my life. She listened to the whole thing, didn't interrupt once, just took it all in. When I was done, there was this pause, and I was just watching her, trying to figure out what she was thinking. Then she did something I didn't expect but totally appreciated. She reached over, took my hand, and said, "Wow, that's a lot to carry around. But you know what? I'm here for you. Whatever's happened, whatever comes next, I'm on your side." Man, hearing that felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. It was so good to have someone just get it and stand by me without making it all complicated. Just as I was getting used to how great things were going, I got this call out of nowhere. It was from a woman who said she was my aunt, my dad's sister. I didn't even know I had an aunt. She sounded pretty serious and a little upset. "Your dad's really sick," she told me. "He's not doing well at all, and it might be your last chance to see him." That news hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't ready for it. Not at all. I mean, I had just started to get my life back on track, and then this? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "I appreciate you telling me this, but I've made peace with how things are between me and him. I don't think seeing him now would change anything or be good for either of us," I said, trying to be as polite but firm as I could. She pushed back a bit, talking about family and forgiveness and all that, but I just couldn't. "I'm really sorry, but I've got to stand by my decision. Please respect that," I told her, and after a few more exchanges, we ended the call. After hanging up, I was pretty shaken. I talked to my new girlfriend about it, and she was amazing. Just listening, supporting, and reinforcing that I had to do what felt right for me. "So, you do what's best for you," she said, squeezing my hand. "I've got your back no matter what." And that's where I'm at right now. I'm navigating this new, exciting relationship and dealing with these blasts from the past that just won't seem to let me go. But having someone who supports you without judgment, who stands by you through the weird, tough times, it changes everything. It makes the tough stuff a little easier to handle. Life's a wild ride, that's for sure. If you've ever been through anything like this, feel free to share your story. Knowing we're not alone in our struggles can really make a difference. Here's to new beginnings and handling whatever life throws our way, with a little help from our friends and maybe a new special someone. Update 7. It all started with a phone call that came out of the blue, from a guy who introduced himself as a lawyer. I was already on edge, thinking, what now? He got straight to the point. "I'm calling about your father. He's passed away." That sentence alone felt like a punch to the gut. I hadn't seen or spoken to my dad in forever, and our last real interaction was anything but pleasant. The lawyer continued, not missing a beat. "He left a will, and he's included you quite significantly. There's also a letter for you. He left a substantial sum of money in your name. My brain was scrambling at this point. Money? A letter? From him? Why? I barely managed to mutter, I see. This is a lot to take in. Of course, these situations are never easy. We can arrange a meeting to discuss this further and go through the details whenever you're ready, the lawyer replied, sounding all calm and professional. I agreed to meet him, more out of curiosity about the letter than the money. I ended the call, and my thoughts were racing. I immediately dialed up my new girlfriend, who has been a rock through recent times. Hey, so my dad passed away, I started, and even saying that felt weird. I told her about the will, the money, and especially the letter. I don't know how to feel about all this, I admitted. That's a lot to handle, she said, her voice full of concern. What do you want to do about the money? I honestly don't know, I sighed heavily. It feels weird, like my whole life, I said I'd never take anything from him. She gave me one of those looks, the kind that says she's thinking deep. Maybe think of it this way. Maybe this was his attempt to make things right. You don't have to see it as agreeing with how he treated you, but maybe as something to help you move forward. Her words helped a bit, but man, was it a lot to digest. A few days later, I found myself in the lawyer's office, a neat little room lined with books and papers. He handed me the letter my dad wrote, and I felt like my heart was pounding as I opened it. My son, I've had a lot of time to think about my actions and their impact on you and your mother. I deeply regret the pain I've caused, and not being there as a father should. In my last days, I realized the full weight of my absence. I hope this money can serve as a small part of mending the gap between us. It's meant to help you build your future, and perhaps offer some peace. I'm truly sorry for everything. Dad, reading that, all sorts of feelings washed over me. Anger, sadness, a weird kind of forgiveness, and even a bit of relief. It was a lot to process. I talked it all through with my girlfriend later that day. He really tried to reach out even now, I told her, shaking my head. Yeah, but this decision is yours. It's about what you need to move forward, she said, always trying to keep me focused on what matters most. Now I'm stuck wrestling with this big decision. Do I take the money, close this chapter, and maybe use it for something good? Or would taking it feel like I'm forgetting all the pain and struggle his actions caused? This isn't an easy choice, and I'm really torn. If any of you have had to deal with something like this, or even if you just have some thoughts on what might be the right thing to do, I'd really appreciate hearing from you. It's one of those times when a little shared wisdom could really help lighten the load. So that's the update. New beginnings mixed with old issues trying to find closure. Here's hoping whatever decision I make, it's the one that leads to peace and moving forward. Thanks for sticking around and hearing me out.